And welcome in, everybody, to Sportsbook Confessions. It's Thursday evening in Dallas. It's a little bit nipply today. 44 degrees when I woke up. Didn't please me, but I went out with the dog anyway, and I'm in a good mood. I'm Brady Tinker at DFW Sports Beat alongside my very good friend Jeffrey Dawson at EC Sports Invest. Good evening, friend. We got a lot to do for the NFL fan tonight.
The super wild weekend. Yes, 2 games on Saturday, 3 on Sunday, 1 on Monday. And as these numbers have now started to get a little more concrete, we can kind of tell who will be behind center in most of these games.
Before we get started, we are probably going to have a really good feeling about who's playing and not playing in all of these games. And to our eyes, I'll use myself because you're the good handicapper and I'm still learning. From my eyes, these games should be a little bit easier if I want to try and find some ways to bet, because we know who's playing and we know that everyone is playing at the best of their ability. Everyone will be there. Everyone will be trying their hardest. These games matter more than any others. This is the way you get famous. This is the way, you end up in the Hall of Fame and you end up getting TV gigs, et cetera, et cetera. These are the games when the best players show and when oftentimes young players that we didn't know really how good they are show. And I have a feeling before I really dive into this that I can do well on these 6 games. Is there any merit to any of that, to this being David hates it when I say it, to this being any easier because we have a better feeling about effort level and who these teams really are, and nobody's, playing for anything except all the gold? Is that a stupid question? Might be.
It's not stupid because everyone has seen 18 weeks of the NFL, and
Right.
each week we describe the NFL as any given Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Now, had someone on earlier today that said that the double-digit favorites in the NFL playoffs are 11-0 against the number, not just straight up 11-0 against the number.
All time. What are we talking about? Since
the
when?
the last 11 games.
Oh, all right. The last 11 games. All right. And we have, as I sit here, two of those in these 6 games. As I look at it, Seattle getting 10 at San Francisco and the Bills giving 13 to the Dolphins. And you may adjust those for me, but we have 2 of those as we sit here now. That'll be all that we have, I would imagine.
Technically, you have 9.5 now in the Seattle game, and you have 9.5 in the Bengals game. So they could end up both being 10 by kickoff.
Yeah. Okay. Good point. So it might be half. Half. Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. Let's start at the top, and the top is Saturday. The Seattle Seahawks get in. It was a great story for their fan base, for them. None of us had Seattle having an over, I think, of 5 or 6. How was it going to work? We knew they were going to play hard the first game because Russ was coming to town, right, with Denver. But you've got a quarterback who's been a journeyman his whole life. Accuracy's never been his thing. How is this going to work out? And I think we all have to admit Pete Carroll's a pretty good coach. And they have probably the comeback player of the year. We'll see. I don't really know what defines a comeback. Is he just been bad for long enough that when he has a really good year, they go, well, that's the comeback player of the year, and he's been coming back from 5 bad seasons before? I don't know. But it's an interesting team, and a team that I'm happy for as I look at the Seattle Seahawks, the number 7 seed at the number 2 seed, San Francisco 49ers, who haven't bothered to lose a game since they traded for Christian McCaffrey, no matter who's playing quarterback.
My original numbers were 10 minus 113, which means the next moves to 10.5,
right?
And a 44 and a 44 under minus 15 cents. We'll use circuit tonight. I get 42 and a 9.5 currently right now. Right. Gino, not so much Gino, but Pete Carroll and the Seahawks have had a lot of success in their history against the Niners. I think Gino and Pete have been a great story. As you said, the preseason, they were 4.5, 5.5 under over, and everyone was betting the under.
Yeah.
And in comes Gino. The whole world's on San Fran. I mean, everyone's already got San Fran versus Philly in the championship game. There's no way in holy hell Seattle's going to come in and cover this number. Well, it's trickling to 9.5. And the more I think about this, just maybe, because the numbers stayed at 27-17. That was the initial number. Can Seattle get to 17 is the first question. And if they can they get to 20, 21 or 23? So I'm starting to warm up to Seattle. How's that sound?
Yeah, I'm with you. And it's a good story. It's a good story how they got here too, right? Seattle getting the win over the Rams on the last day, 19-16. Then they turn and they need help from the Lions against the Packers. And we all knew there was something there, that the Lions would be live in that game. One, the Packers had struggled most of the year. Two, the Lions had become a very good story in the last half of the season. And three, the Lions have been getting bitch slapped by the Packers for, it seems like, 58 years. So the Lions are laying in wait for this Green Bay team, and it was a delicious ending with the most puzzling of things, with Aaron Rodgers with his arm around Randall Cobb walking in the tunnel. And I thought to myself, damn, I would not have guessed that Aaron had any friends. But, Randall Cobb was here in Dallas, and I did a story with Randall Cobb. And you want to talk about, as a media person who's in locker rooms, someone that you would like. Randall Cobb was all business in Dallas in his 1 year in Dallas as a Dallas Cowboy. He took his job seriously, winning and losing seriously. He was eloquent, so well-spoken, so smart. I had so much fun talking to him and learning from him that I will tell you. Sorry I said that shitty thing about he and his quarterback, but I did find it funny. I haven't been an Ayahuasca fan for some time. San Francisco, as we mentioned, hasn't lost a game since the McCaffrey trade. Is the one thing holding you back just a little bit is that they're almost maybe totally in the playoffs a defensive-driven team, because we don't believe in the last player chosen in the draft being as good as he's been so far, right? It's an Iowa State quarterback, 11 touchdowns, 4 picks. It's been a storybook. On the other hand, if you break down all of their games since he started, it's been relatively easy. Not easy to bet on, but relatively easy. Play action works. Everything they're doing is working. It's an offensive machine, and the rhythm has been perfect. It reminds me a little bit of early in Dak's career when he came in when Romo got hurt, and everything went right. Zeke had 150 every game. They ran the ball to the tune of whatever they wanted. So play action worked, and Dak looked like he was the second coming. It's been a little bit of that for this Iowa State quarterback, whose name I'm blanking on. So fill it in, please.
The Brock star, Mr. Purdy,
There
Mr. Irrelevant. He had the perfect storm, comes in 2 home games. Then on a Thursday night, travels to Seattle. He's a Brock star. Hadn't seen any adversity till he went to Vegas, and he did move the ball. He did bring them back. Brady, in our lanes, we wait for the hiccup. We wait for that brain fart. We wait for the throw and then the, oh no. How do you handle adversity?
Right.
This is not the regular season now. This is the playoffs. He is gifted with the best defense in the NFL. He is gifted with one of the geniuses on the offensive side. And if you ask Mr. Shanahan, he will tell you straightforward, like Bill Belichick, it's the system. As you can see, it doesn't matter if it's Jimmy G. It doesn't matter if it's Trey Lance. I got the last guy drafted, and we're in the playoffs here. Okay? So I'm just waiting for that. And Seattle doesn't have a great defense. I mean, Purdy and San Fran would need 2 or 3 turnovers. Geno would not have to turn the ball over. They'd have to play keep away. Kenneth Walker would have to have a big game, yada, yada, yada. And that's to cover, not even win.
Good.
So,
Yep.
Listen, we talked weeks and weeks ago here at ECSI. I think we got some 14-1 on the 49ers the week that Jimmy G went down to win the Super Bowl. So listen, they're a great team. If you put a gun to my head, let's go back in time. This could be a rematch between the Niners and the Bengals, but it looks too easy. How's that
between
sound?
the Niners and the Chiefs too, if you want to not bitch slap my Kansas City team. The other interesting thing we need to give San Francisco credit for is this isn't their second quarterback. This is their third, right? It was the Trey Lance show, and they were all in on the Trey Lance show, as tragic as it looked for whatever it was, a week and a half or 2 weeks. Then they got to go to Jimmy, who knows how his mind was, but he comes in and does pretty much Jimmy things. And then the defense continues to get better and better and better. And as we kind of figured they would, they can run the football. And then here comes the Brock star, as you call him. So give them credit, give the coaches credit, everyone that's such a good team. It really is. It'll be interesting And can they go that far? And what happens to Brock when he gets hit late in that game and they don't call it because they don't really know who he is, because he doesn't get the same protection as everyone else? It'll be interesting to see. Those are the things that we're all waiting to see how he responds to, right? Seems like the kid who can handle it. We'll see. Number 5, the Chargers of San Diego, but I guess not. At the number 4 Jaguars from the great state of Florida. The Chargers won 4 of their last 5. Their last loss was to Denver in week number 18, and I don't think that they cared all that much. Herbert, Eckler, Keenan Allen, and Williams are very formidable. As we sit here on Thursday, from what I understand, Williams is in grave danger of not playing, and so it's a waste that he got hurt in week 18. That will hurt them. But I get a feeling the Jaguars, who are home dogs, as I saw it this morning at +2 with an over and under 47.5, might be in over their heads. I know you believe in that second-year quarterback. I have a feeling, because I watched the Jaguars-Titans game to see who was going to win that division, even though it was sort of anticlimactic. And it was a physical game from beginning to end with a scoop and score, essentially winning the game very unpredictably for the Jaguars. So I have a feeling the Jaguars were beat to hell in that Titans game, haven't played a game this big, are a little surprised that they're here. And the Chargers, with that core that we talked about, are due to play a really good game. And their defense has come together and is really key for them, healthy. And I really feel like the Chargers are in charge of this game. This one seems, to the true novice, easy.
Go back to early September when the Jags snuck up on the Chargers in LA and they just steamrolled them. We talked about that on Tuesday. Absolutely correct on the fact that the Chargers were already in. For some reason, they wanted to play their starters, and Big Mike goes out with the back spasms, and now he's probably gone for Saturday. A very, very physical game against the Titans. It was actually a play-in game. Win and you're in, and the Titans had a couple opportunities to win that game. I'd still like to see that replay of that scoop and score or whatever they want to call that there, but that's for another show, Brady. My actual numbers were a pick and 46.5, 2.5 right now at Circa with a 47.5. I'll go back to the original number and now see where it's going. I see 24-23 written all over this. I see 23-21 Jacksonville. I see the Dicker, or whatever you want to call him.
Ooh, Dicker the kicker, yeah.
Dicker the kicker with a late walk-off field goal, 24-23. I like Eckler. I lean Herbert over Lawrence, obviously. I would take Ingram over Everett in a heartbeat. But with that said, the one variable is, again, you got a coach on the Jaguar side that's won a Super Bowl, and versus this coach in San Diego. Now you got me saying it, in LA. That's awful. He's awful.
Well, that's a really good point. And that may take easy off the table for me now, because Dave Sherapin says stop saying easy when it comes to figuring out handicapping. And I know he's right, because you're right. Peterson is rock solid, having a Super Bowl there, having taken this quarterback in his second year and made all of us say, there's the guy we thought we were going to see, right? And they progressed, and they had a bad record, and he told them, you'll be playing in week 18 to get in the playoffs, and they were. It's wonderful for coaches when those prophetic things happen. And on the other side of the coin, I've watched Brandon Staley very closely here, because I'm a Kansas City guy, and I watch that division over and over again, and I wonder if he's probably coaching for his job. It's been a hell of a roster the last 3 years, a hell of a roster. And this one managed to get in late and win 10 games when I think that's probably about what their over and under was. But that's a good point. That's a good point. You have one Super Bowl savvy coach who is comfortable as he can be and can call any damn play at any time he wants. And you have Staley, who tends to go for it no matter whether the moon is shining on a dog's ass or not. That's different. That takes easy off the table.
I'll even add easier for you and everyone watching and listening this live show on Super Wild Weekend here at ECSI. Would you rather next year start your season with that goofball that you said, or would you rather have Sean Payton? as your coach.
Don't even talk to me about that. I'm from Kansas City. I do not want Sean Payton's ass in San Diego, or he can stay in San Diego. That way he'll miss most of the games. I do not want that. I do not want him hooking up with this quarterback and this crew and that defense. I don't. So would I rather? Would anyone say they would rather have Staley, including the most diehard of fans for the LA Chargers? No. No, that's exactly what everyone wants. So the Chargers probably sitting at home saying, I really hope they do well and win a couple games. And, if they end up against Kansas City in the AFC Championship game, and I haven't looked at the bracket to see if that's possible, they can beat the Chiefs. It'll be the third time they've seen them. We could do this. We could do this. On the other hand, I have a parachute, and that is if we lose in the first round, Staley's gone, and I'm getting Sean Payton. It's good to be a Charger fan right now.
I'd take curtain B, Mr. Tinker.
I hear you. I don't want to see behind that curtain. Number 7, Miami Dolphins are not who we saw that they were early in the season because of various injuries, traveling to the number 2 Buffalo Bills, who are secretly not that happy about being number 2. They end up with 13 wins. The Bills are a 13-point favorite as I looked at it this morning. 43.5 was the over and under. No Tua for the Dolphins, no Teddy for the Dolphins. So my Kansas State quarterback, Mr. Thompson, will step in and play, thus 13 or 13.5 points. The Bills have been through the roller coaster lately, emotionally, because of the terrible thing that happened to Damar Hamlin, which for the whole country and the whole world has now turned into something magical and beautiful and makes prayer worth it and makes all of us realize how much those players like each other. It's funny, in so many interviews with Randy White and the like of the old Cowboys days, who I've just come to love, I would say, Randy, when you went to the Pro Bowl, right, in Hawaii or wherever the Pro Bowls were back in your day, what'd you do when you weren't practicing? Fish? Well, who'd you go with? Nobody. Well, I'm like, weren't any players on other teams? You don't want to go against Russ Grimm or, somebody from one of the opposing teams that you respect. Brady, I didn't want to talk to those sumbitches. I hate those fuckers. No, I didn't ask them to go fishing with me. And now you got players walking off the field, taking off their jerseys, exchanging jerseys, hugs and kisses, praying together in the middle of the field. It is a tight-knit group. And I think some of us olds say, give me back the Randy White guys. Give me back hate for everybody. When the truth is, all of us olds are very tired of a society that feels full of hate right now. And the beauty of these guys rooting for each other, loving each other, and knowing that they're beating the hell out of each other physically every single day actually is a wonderful thing. I have no idea what I meant when I went on that tirade, but it reminded me of a Randy White story, and it was coming out. So give me something on the number 7 Dolphins and how they possibly have a chance at the number 2 Buffalo Bills.
I had a 10 with a 44.5, and that was just a basic placeholder. It was kind of funny. It was like 7 holding out any glimmer of hope for Tua, then to 10 holding out any glimmer of hope for Teddy, and then went right to 13.5. A lot of people think it'll be 14 by kickoff. Skylar Thompson behind the helm.
Thank you.
There's nothing much I can say here. This is, again, as you would like to say, too easy. You got an under over of 43. I mean, and they're giving you 13.5 points. So just do the basic math. If the Dolphins can miraculously get to 17, that means Buffalo needs 31. And, warm weather team traveling to Buffalo. Let's win one for Damar. Will Damar might be up in one of the booths.
Might be.
Buffalo's going to win the game. I don't know how many people are out there touting the Dolphins have a puncher's chance. In the playoffs, anything can happen, but usually in the first week, we used to call them tomato cans. And what would happen is the Patriots had 2 games a year during that two-decade run, is they'd win the East, they'd have a bye, and someone would come in the next weeks to Foxborough, 10, 11, 12-point underdogs, and the Patriots will win 42-10. And this has got set up like a tomato can. No disrespect to what they're building in Miami.
No, none whatsoever.
As in San Fran, who is at their 3rd-string quarterback, Miami's in their third string quarterback as well.
Yeah, it's rough. And you would think, well, they acquired Jeff Wilson, and they ran it pretty good some games. Let's put Wilson and Mostert together and try and get 44 carries. The Bills' front four hasn't been quite as good. Their offensive line hasn't been quite as good, maybe. And now it looks like Mostert's out because of a broken finger. So as of Thursday, I don't believe he had practiced, or he had been very limited in trying to practice. I don't think he's playing, right? Do we know that yet? I haven't seen Mostert.
I get doubtful now. No, he's doubtful.
Okay. So that takes sort of, we'll run it 45 times off the table. Quick slants to Tyreek and Waddle will certainly be drawn up, and certainly the Buffalo Bills will be standing in the way within 7 yards of the line of scrimmage, probably 7 deep, to make that difficult, to make that young man throw the ball deep. I don't know if anything that is 13.5 or 14 is ever easy, but I'm with you. It sounds like a rout. The number 6 New York Giants. This one interests me at the number 3 Minnesota Vikings. Vikings are 3-point favorites as of this morning, and I had 48, which is a big number. You and I talked about this a little bit on Tuesday. There you go. The tallest number of the weekend, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday games of super wild card weekend involves the New York Giants. Interesting. At the Minnesota Vikings at 48. The Giants feel very live to me here. Brian Dable has them playing well, has the quarterback, making a lot less mistakes and making better decisions. Is very good running back, got a week off, which he desperately needed. And I'm just feeling Giants in this game all over the place because of the unpredictability of the Vikings, who won a lot of games, but who end the season at -3, I believe it is. That's it. -3 on the point differential. So the Chiefs and the Bills are plus whatever, 130 and 115. And the Vikings, who won 12 games, are -3. That's bothersome if you're trying to place a wager.
I've talked about this all year. And, tongue-in-cheek, kiddingly, I said, Kirk Cousins for MVP at 40-1.
Yep.
He has the best wide receiver in the game. In my eyes, it's not even a debate with Justin Jefferson. A very solid running back with Dalvin Cook. You add in a tight end, and next thing you know, Osgood, Thielen, pretty damn good. Their defense is pretty damn good. And they get the Bozo Award this year because for 2 straight years, they led the NFL in losses in one-possession games. So what did they do? They turned it over. Right. Now they're winning all those games. And as you said, their point differential, they're in the negative. In comes the Giants. I see it is not a tumor. I don't see Phil Simms. I don't see Eli Manning. I don't see how, other than 2.5s and 3s. I get it. The shocker here is the 48. Take the over. Get it now. Get it. Because Vegas is telling me with all these damn games, this is the one game that's going to score the most points. So Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley, whoever decides to catch the ball, Richie, you name it. I'm just telling you, points, and more points. I still have a soft heart for the Purple People Eaters. I'm rooting for the Vikings, but it's starting to seem, whether it's the Giants or Dallas, there's going to be an NFC East opponent in Philly next week, which will be interesting.
Will be interesting. I agree with you. By the way, the people who have the big bags of money know the Vikings beat the Giants 27-24 on Christmas Eve, I think, in a pretty good game that, as I remember, really Minnesota controlled most of the game and the Giants kind of just wouldn't go away, but couldn't get over the offensive hump. So put that in your pipe if you want to make a bet. But both Jeff and I like the 48 over and under points. Number 6, Ravens at the number 3, Cincinnati Bengals. Again, this one almost immediately seems easy, but it can't be, because the Ravens defense is back to being what we're used to it being, which is a hell of a good defense. But the Bengals, I think we both agree, are the hot team in the AFC, maybe the hot team in the NFL, right there with San Francisco. My line this morning was the Bengals at home -9.5, with the over and under pretty low, right? Showing that the Ravens defense is playing well. And I think we both agree the Bengals defense, quietly, without maybe any stars, is playing well again. -9.5 and 40.5. Start me off with something hot for the Bengals and the Ravens.
A placeholder of 6 holding out for Lamar then went to 7.5.
Right.
I think holding for Huntley. Then
Yep.
overnight went to this 9.5, 9 number. I'm getting practice for Huntley
Yeah.
today. I'm getting my Lamar doubtful. I know he's out. Huntley questionable. Gus Edwards questionable. So is this 9.5 for the third string quarterback here? We know the Bengals have not given up 17 or more, actually more than 17 points in forever. You got an under over of 40 with a 9.5. It's very simple here. The Ravens need to find a way to get to 20, 21, or 23 here. If they can do that, they got a hell of a shot. But again, Bengals, slow starters, hang around second half. They're just absolutely lights out. Joe, Jamar, T, Tyler. They're a fun team. Joe Mixon.
Always
T. Ryan.
points to a well-coached team for me, the teams that make the adjustments at halftime and come out and win games. And you can see made noticeable adjustments with what was happening in the first half and had plenty of moxie and cool to go out and just say, we've figured this out. We will slow you down and we know how to score points. It's a good-looking team. Really was.
You know, Brady, listen, I know you're a Chiefs guy. Listen, Mahomes is just so fun to watch. And then Josh Allen, just to watch him grow every year. Okay. Yeah. And Joe Burrow is a bitch. That guy just finds the hole and just he's got Joe Cool. He's
getting better too, because he reminds me of Montana a little bit with probably a better arm, but he's so relaxed about getting through his progressions. And while I never think of him as a running quarterback, even in the ilk of Mahomes, who isn't a running quarterback either, he just runs at the right time. All of a sudden, Burrow's doing that a lot more this year too, stepping deftly up and around the pocket and running. And you're like, he's slow. You got him, and he gets 7, he gets 11, he gets what he needs. And he's not slow. He's more athletic than you think. I'm with you. He keeps getting better and better. Needs help with his apparel and some of his jewelry, but other than that, he's pretty good. The number 5 Dallas Cowboys are at the number 4 Tampa Bay Buccaneers this morning. That was Buccaneers, a home dog of 2 points, and I did not find the over and under this morning, so clue me in on what the lines are for the Cowboys at the Bucs. Probably the most talked about game in the last week, really, between Tom and the hated and/or loved Cowboys.
My true numbers were 3 with a 44 and a hook. Now 2.5 with a 45.5. As I prefaced on Tuesday, as I've said on all our shows this week, I will just lay this out in Jeff Dawson terms. Okay. Tom Brady comes to the Bucs. He hosts the Dallas Cowboys in the home opener. 6-point favorites. Bucs win, don't cover. He then goes to Dallas this year, home opener in Dallas, 2-point favorites. They win. Tom Brady in his career has never lost to the Dallas Cowboys. Now, take what we've seen from this Cowboys team the last few years, last few weeks. I'll go back to the Texans game. Their defense struggled. We're talking the Titans. We're talking the Redskins, the Commanders. Okay. Now you got Tom Terrific with 6 rings at home as a dog. People remember what they saw last. This is Dallas, and Dallas for me. Now, with the number down to 4, it's up to 45.5. I'm not calling 24-21 here. I don't think Tom and company get to 21. They might get to 20 or 17, but I can see Dallas getting 24, 27, and then the Bucs stuck on stupid around 17, maybe 20.
If you want me to confuse the fans, because I'm neck deep in what's going on here in Dallas, and I've studied this game upside and down as we sit here Thursday night. It's still very confusing, and there are a couple of key points, and one that are back-to-back 12-win seasons for the Cowboys, which is they've only done basically 1 or 2 other times in their history. So that's pretty damn good. Mike McCarthy's done pretty damn good. Last year was one of those years where they titillated you, but then disappointed you. This year hasn't really been that. Dak got hurt in week 1 in that Tampa game. They were done. But McCarthy figured out how to take a redheaded quarterback that nobody wanted and win 4 games in a row. And they've been pretty damn steady all year long. The 5 losses the Cowboys have all came to teams that are in the tournament. So they may have been ahead at a couple of those games. Maybe they shouldn't have lost. I can go through and nitpick them. But what I really want to think about now is besides, also we can go through the Tom litany too. The divorce has been painful for him. It's hard for all of us to watch. We knew the 45-year-old would have, Mother Nature catch up with him, or Father Time catch up with him. It's only fair that it eventually happens. But the truth is, he's been pretty damn good and pretty damn accurate, and it's coming out almost as fast as it does every year. They just haven't had any momentum. So then I dig deeper. Well, the Cowboys have real trouble in the secondary. They're going to play two cornerbacks a lot, who Tom's going to stand at the line of scrimmage and go, okay, I'm going there or there. They have an offensive lineman at right tackle that's Tyron Smith, that's probably going to the Hall of Fame, but he is struggling mightily on the right side. He's really struggling. It's just the right tackle and the left tackle, if you've ever talked to an offensive lineman, are so different. Your movements are exactly mirrored the opposite directions. Your punches, your drops, your hands, your feet, your ass, all of it makes a difference to the guy next to you. And Tyron, while one of the baddest men I've ever watched, is struggling. So all of a sudden, a Cowboys running game that was really pretty good through week 10, 11 hasn't been, because they're missing Terrence Steele, a name none of you ever heard of, and we didn't think was going to be that big a deal, and it's been a big deal. So I'm not sure they can run it, and I'm not sure they can defend the pass. And on top of everything, on top of the Cowboys, this is as close to a must-win game as this coach, this team, this organization has had in years, because guys like me who are watching are saying, this ain't the same shit for the last 26 years. It's not. They're better than that. You can name a litany of a half a dozen really good players on this football team, which is what it takes to win playoff games. Starts with their quarterback. It goes with Micah Parsons. It goes to Diggs. It goes to Pollard. It goes to CeeDee Lamb. I mean, really good players. Zach Martin, the right guard's first ballot Hall of Fame. There's really good players here. They got to win this game. And Jeff, in this town and underneath that microscope, and with Mike McCarthy as good as he's been, knowing Sean Payton would come here in a heartbeat too, right? And that their defensive coordinator, Dan Quinn's going somewhere else, and his impact here the last 2 years has been tremendous. The players in the organization love Dan Quinn. So Mike McCarthy should no way in hell get fired even if they lose this game, but he might. So the buildup for this game is something else. And you can also see from the Tampa point of view how they could absolutely just shit the bed. They really don't have anything going on here. I don't anticipate the quarterback will be terrible, but he did have 2 or 3 games in a row. I think 3 where he threw 2 picks in a row. He was so frustrated. And their offensive line is potentially a mess. Their starting center from the beginning of the year is trying to come back, and maybe he's going to come back, only I don't think he is. And the guy who's been playing center since the beginning of the year is probably out too. So the left guard is now moving to center. So you've got nobody at center that nobody at left guard that and a right tackle that's hurting. They may not be able to run the ball to the tune of 65 yards either, and the Cowboys pass rush is tremendous. I have no idea what to do with this game, but it's a lot, and I can't wait to watch.
And how do you beat Tom? Well, you got to get Tom off of his spots.
Right.
And
what's bothered him all year is not necessarily sacks, because it's 22. He's great at not getting sacked because it takes him to the count of 1-2 and the ball's gone. But 22 sacks is a good enough number, and the number of hits is somewhere up around 50. He doesn't like it, and he's 45, and I wouldn't like it either. And they're rolling around at his legs, and they're coming, and so he's leaning slightly, right? He's getting a little bit older, and all of a sudden the throws are that much off, that much behind, that much high in key spots, more interceptions than you would have thought, and he's just not the same. And I forgive him, and I just don't know whether I expect it or not against this Cowboys team. I don't know what's going to happen.
And don't forget, we remember what we saw take us back a year ago in the playoff game, and McCarthy and Dak, and that's what everyone's expecting. Okay, as bad as they've looked the last few weeks, and you add McCarthy with Dak in a playoff spot against Tom, terrific at home, then why aren't they favored? Just answer that question.
And that's a good point. No, you and your gambler's mind make good points, and the point here is Vegas has been on Dallas all along. And I'm with you on that, and I got to do better at listening. It's going to be a hell of a Monday Night Football game. I cannot wait. These are all going to be great games. Does the NCAA put a 2-loss SEC team into the Final Four next year because Georgia beat the shit out of TCU 65-7, and Alabama maybe should have been in instead of, I don't know how you could have taken TCU out, but maybe you could have taken Ohio State out. and put in Alabama. Then you'd had your two SEC teams because, as all the know-it-alls who don't really know anything say, it's always the SEC. They're the best. I don't even know why you fuck around with all these other teams. Blah, 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 blah. Well, it's a good story to get TCU there. Utah was a good story last year or the year before. I enjoy those stories, but they may be right. So when it comes down to it next year, and Alabama's got 2 more losses, but you probably know they were a top 3 or 4 team, are they definitely in because of 65-7?
It reminds me of what TCU did by beating Michigan was they weren't Notre Dame. In other words, Notre Dame gets to the dance and gets snowplowed by Clemson, by Alabama. And, well, we knew who we thought they were, therefore they shouldn't have been there. Well, TCU quieted all the critics by beating Michigan, okay? So you are 100 spot correct here. Ohio State was at home against Michigan, 9-point favorites, and not only lost, they gave up in the fourth quarter. There was no reason. We all knew Bama was a top 4 team. There was no reason to put Ohio State in there. The reason is they've never put a 2-loss team in. And listen, the championship game, Ohio State and Georgia, that was a classic. So again, they got it right. I looked at the Georgia schedule for next year, who they're already the favorites. The only chance they have to lose is against Bama in the SEC. And someone called the SEC out on this. I wonder if you know this answer. In the past 15 years, did you know that Alabama and Georgia have faced each other once in the ranking? So it's comical. I mean, you got 2 conferences, 2 powerhouse divisions. I get all that. Tennessee is going to be lights out again next year. There's some teams that are knocking on the door. But Georgia and Alabama, how about this? Georgia, then Alabama, then the rest of the SEC. So I think in the back of their minds, they know, hey, guys, it doesn't matter next year because the following year we're going to 12 teams anyways. So bitch, yell, scream, whine as much as you want because no 2-loss team is getting in here.
Let's go to the NBA because we haven't done this very much. We need to start getting our rhythm here on Sportsbook Confessions with some NBA games. The difference for us with these games is a lot of time the lines on these games don't come out more than a day and a half or so ahead, right? So that holds us back a little bit. So I went to Friday night games since we're doing this live for everybody on Thursday night, and I couldn't even get all the best Friday night games as I was preparing the show. So let's go with what we've got. Golden State seems to be back at full health. Their record isn't very good at 20-21, but as of right now, they'd still be in the playoff as the 8th seed. And we know that they are something close to a dynasty. They are traveling to San Antonio. Spurs are 8.5-point home dog. The over and under is 238.5. And the really interesting note that I have for you is, well, 2 things. The Spurs are giving up 51% field goal percentage. And yes, Greg Popovich is still the coach. So that's shocking to me because they've always been a defense-first team under Pop, and he's a great coach. The second note is San Antonio has already sold, get this, 63,592 tickets to this Friday night game with Golden State coming to visit their next to last place Western Conference Spurs. It will be the highest selling ticketed NBA game of all time and only the 4th time in NBA history that a game has had more than 50,000 people in the stands. First thing is, they don't build NBA stadiums that big for the most part. So those are my 2 interesting notes. Isn't that number tips you off a little bit, off your axis a little bit, doesn't it? 64,000 people to see an NBA game. That's a lot.
That's a real lot. We were talking before we started the show, and those numbers are for the NCAA Final Four. Let's put them in the biggest venues to see how many we can get. Shout out to Marty Lowe. Thank you, Marty, for watching. Yes, Bama is 7-1 against UGA the last 8 games. Unfortunately, Georgia has won the last 2 national titles. So I know you guys will get them next year, trust me. But with that said, you know what's striking in this game is the under-over is 241. And it's almost like roll the ball out. It's an NBA All-Star game. Get your popcorn.
Okay, so that's a pretty good adjustment. You've taught me to watch this too. That line on the over and under has gone up 4 or 5 points since it came out too.
Well, let me just go back to 241 was the original number. It's down to 240.
Yeah, 238. Okay, so, I thought you were telling me it was up there. Okay.
my original number was 241. So my point is 65,000. We're trying to break it. Let's have some fun and take the over in this game.
I'm with you. Spurs aren't very good, but it should be a fun game. Warriors get Steph back for the second time. He lost in his first game, didn't shoot very well, but he and Clay are back. So like the Warriors in that game, and we like the over. Is that what you said? Okay. New Orleans at Detroit. New Orleans team with Zion, CJ McCollum, and Brandon Ingram. That's a pretty good threesome right there. Zion on the floor for the most part all year. At Detroit, Detroit is a 5-point home dog, 232.5, a hook, as I'm taught to call it. At Detroit, tell me what you know about this. Detroit's not very good. They are 12-33, and their plus minus is 7.2 points per game. That in the NBA, that's a pretty big number. You're pushing double digits that you lose by. That's how you get to 13-32. Sorry, 12-33.
They're tanking for Wembanyama. Their star, Cade Cunningham, shin issues, shut her down, be back next year. It's a short number, though. It's an intriguing number. The Pelicans a little banged up here. I have a 4.5. I do see 5s in a few spots. That number is a Piston number for me. It's a Friday night special. Payday locally. Everyone usually gets paid on Friday, runs to the, go put a little money, something. Supposed to be getting, I like to say it this way, Brady. You're supposed to be getting pizza for the family or the wife, and you end up at your local barbershop, you end up at your casinos, whatever, and you're into the 7 o'clock games, and next thing you know, it's the late night games, and the wife calls at 11, says, what's going on? Oh, the pizza's on the oven, and you get home, the couch, the blanket, the pillow. So don't be the pizza guy. That's what we like to say. But that number screams Pistons to me.
Good. Houston at Sacramento. Sacramento, 10-point favorites at home. 235 is the over and under. Sacramento playing pretty good basketball, 22-18. And I looked up their numbers. They win games 119, 117. It's pretty damn fun to watch the Sacramento Kings, 5-3 in their last 8. And an interesting note here, this is a back-to-back game, which we've seen more and more from the NBA. Houston at Sacramento. Guess what? They had a night off, and both these games are in Sacramento. A pretty brutal trip. Houston is on the road for a 4-game trip that's at Sacramento, day off, at Sacramento, no day off, Clippers, day off, Lakers. That's a sucky trip for a Houston team that's not having very much fun anyway.
I don't see Clyde Drexler. I don't see Akeem Olajuwon.
That son of a bitch knocked me out of a seat in an airport one time, too. I'm sorry you've lost your seat. This guy's going in. I'm basically hiking back up the aisle, and down goes Clyde. And I'm like, I thought those 5 Slamma Jamma teams are overrated, too. I think is what I muttered.
It's a 10, with a 235, basic math, 120, 110. 125, 115, that's 40. So we'll go 123, 112. How's that sound? Right on the number on both of them.
Okay. And Orlando at Utah. Utah home favorite, 5 points is the spread, and they total is 232. Utah 13-7 at home, sitting number 9, 21-23, 1 game out of number 8. It's Markkanen and Clarkson. They're certainly missing, I would think, Rudy Gobert. On the other hand, Rudy Gobert went for a potload, 5 first-round picks, as I remember, at least 4, and maybe a first-round swap. And then at least one decent player, Malik Beasley, who's doing okay. And Minnesota's record is not as good as we sit here right now, as is Utah's after having acquired Rudy Gobert, which I really thought the Mavericks might be interested in. They were not. So maybe they were right. But talk to me about Orlando at Utah, 5 points and 232.
Danny blew the whole team up expecting to be in the Wembanyama sweepstakes. Mm-hmm. And they came out guns a-blazing. Then they came back to earth. Now they're back and forth. The number to me is a little high. I would take Tony, Orlando, and the Magic, and plus the 6 here. With that said, there are a couple 5.5s at DraftKings and a couple other spots. But I would take the points here. Expect a close game, under over 232 and a hook. So we'll give you the old, I don't know, let's say 118, 116, somewhere in there.
Woo. Sounds like a game I want to watch, but I'm not gonna. All right, you had a hell of a year at EC Sports Invest, Mr. Jeffrey Dawson, in 2022. Everybody wants to bet these 6 super duper super wild card weekend NFL games. What are you looking at? And if I called you Friday night and said, I need 2, tell me what you're leaning toward. I need 2 somethings, over and unders, wins. I don't care. If you see a parlay opportunity here, throw that out to me. Get some people something fun to bet on. Tell them to bet $5 or $10 on 2 things. What 2 things, Jeffrey Dawson?
Well, the 2 that stick out the most to me is over 48. What I would suggest, if your guy has 48, some people live by this, some people don't believe in this. If you got a 48, I'm buying the hook to 47 and a half. I'm spending the extra 10 cents per.
Now we're talking about the Giants at Vikings, by the way.
That's correct.
Yes.
I'm going over 47 and a half in that game. So 28-20 guys, we cash while other guys push. And
okay,
I'm going
hold on. Who won 28-20? I'm just curious.
God, that's a tough one, Brady. It is. I'm rooting for the Vikings.
Giants.
I know. I really do, because I think there's going to be an NFC. I can see it right now. Giants at Philly, Dallas at San Fran. I can already see that. So, all right, 28-20. There you go, Giants. How's that?
All right, and give me the other one. Give me the other one.
It's the Dallas money line. I'm not laying the 2. I'm not laying 2.5. I'm not laying 1. I'm taking the points out of play. Just win, baby. I think Dallas comes in. It's a 45. Like I said, 24-13. That's kind of in my head right now. 27-17. I think it's a comfortable win for Dallas. I think they're going to get Tom off his spots. He's going to have the happy feet, deer in the headlight. Don't get sold on that one big week, Mike Evans to Tom Brady, back and forth. They hadn't had that kind of combination all year, and he had the one big week. And next week, I can see it. I can see Philly Giants, and I can see Dallas at San Fran. I can see it right now.
And by the way, it'll be Tom's last game as a Buccaneer, and mission accomplished. He won a Super Bowl. He took a bunch of really good players and galvanized them at the end of a season, went on a hell of a run and smashed Kansas City, and it was a nice run. Tom's not quitting, but he's not going to be in Tampa Bay next year.
100% correct.
Very nice to talk to you this evening, buddy. Good job. Had a lot of fun. We'll be back for everybody on Sportsbook Confessions, hopefully with David Sharapan on Tuesday night it is 8 o'clock Central my time, 9 o'clock East Coast time. And when Dave joins us, it will be 6 p.m. in Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm Brady Tinker at DFW Sports Beat for Jeffrey Dawson at EC Sports Invest. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Have a great time watching all the football games this weekend, and start tuning in some NBA, because we're getting there for you.